Hi everyone, it's Heidi from flutterbyheidi.co.uk, and today I'm coming with a project using the fabulous Sand and Sea Suite. So I have done a product showcase on this if you want to go and have a look, but just to kind of remind you, dies and stamps and an embossing folder that all coordinate together to give lovely 3D images. Fabulous paper and pearlescent paper, lovely soft pinks, some lovely accent stickers as well. They look so much nicer when they're popped out. Opal rounds, lovely iridescent opals, and here are the stamped images. You can see here you've got some two-step stamping, or you can use these as a shadow and then pop them through the embossing folder, or if you just stamp them, you'll get lovely effects as well. So that's what I'm using today. And this card is also using our gorgeous blending brushes. You can see here lovely blending and some other new things. So you can tell, oh gosh, so many new things that are lovely. Stitch with Whimsy dies. So these add this inner stitching kind of detail. And they reminded me of tracks in the sand, you know, when you get bird prints. I mean, they're not bird prints, footprints at all, but they are lovely. And I've coordinating with an old staple, which is the stitch shapes or the stitched rectangles, as you can see here. So, you know, whichever you use, I just like the effect of the rectangle. And I say the sizes, you've got lovely rectangles for the inside of your card, for the outer, smaller ones that I've used here, or for squares as well. So what I've actually done to start off with is done a bit of prep work. So she says, although what I haven't done is actually created a card base. That's a really good start, isn't it? That's easily remedied though. So just take a piece of basic white, which is 10.5 by 29 centimetres. I always go for 29 rather than straightforward half, because when you're adding layers it makes it easier. On this card it wouldn't matter because you're not actually adding any cut layers. But just trying to get 14.85, just kind of, yeah. Do you know what? Life's too short to do halves of millimetres for me. So I just prefer to go 14.5 and score it in half. If you're using metric, imperial rather than metric, that would be 11.5, score at 5 3/4, and it's 4 1/8. If you're in Europe and the UK, that is. US card stock, it would be your standard base, so 4 1/4 by 5.5, so 11 inches. So there's our card base. Now you'll see here I've got some lovely blending going on. So what I have got is blending brushes. These blending brushes are beautiful. They are really dense and give a fabulous finish. I have bought a couple of sets because I want to keep one for each kind of colour family. So I've got them, this one's yellows, this one I've got it down as reds, but obviously I'm using it as pinks at the moment, and I will get another one so I can use it as reds. For me, that's better. You can clean them. Obviously, you can rub them till the colour doesn't come off. I just prefer to keep those colour tones because I do find otherwise if you use them on a different colour tone, you might get a bit of colour contamination, which we don't want to do. I've also just used the dies from the sea and sand that are not in that main big die. So on the die you've got this fabulous big one which is the main image, and then you've got these extra accent ones for the seaweed and the sort of seaside plants and the sand dollars and things. So those are the ones I'm going to be using, but I'm going to start with our blending, and what I've also done is I've already cut a shape out, and what I thought I would try and do is actually blend that one with a different colour as well, just to add a bit of interest. So I've stuck to the colour palette of the suite. So I've got So Saffron, some Blushing Bride, and I'm going to use some Sahara Sand. And she says optimistically, I will if I can find my other brush. Okay, other brush. So first thing I'm going to do, let's try adding some colour to this card here. So I often sort of dab off a little bit first because I don't want that really dark sort of effect. But the nice thing about the blending is that you will get sort of a slightly more textured effect, a slightly softer kind of colour. But if I'm blending, I usually start off the side and then come in as well if I'm doing a die cut, because what that will do is give you a sort of a definition on the edge. So I'll sort of come in from either side here. So that's just given me, instead of the solid Sahara sand, it gives just a little bit more texture, so probably a little bit more like the sand. So that's going to go on there. So I'll pop that over to the side as complete. Let's get some yellow. So on this one, I'm going to come from the middle where that piece of card is going to overlap and come out to the yellow, out from the centre there. And it's just kind of a hint of almost of, you know, summer sunshine. We're all thinking about the summer. We've been told that, you know, of what the roadmap is here in the UK in terms of getting out of this current situation. So we're all hoping everybody sticks to the rules so that we can get out of lockdown. I'm still waiting for my jab. Although who knows, by the time this goes live, I mean, you know, I may have had an appointment come through. I can always hope. So I'm just adding this lovely Blushing Bride down the bottom here. So just adds sort of a hint of colour. That's a little bit more. I'm going to just put a smut on that one, so I'm going to need to add another opal round to that one when I've finished. So now I've done that and I've put my Blushing Bride away, I'm going to need to use it again, of course. Always the way, isn't it? So I'm using my little sprinkles. Lovely thing about the papers in this, have a look on the showcase. The papers that come with this have almost like the salt technique. So those of you who have been around crafting a little while might remember where, you know, you're using it perhaps on, I've used it on silk painting actually, where you add salt onto quite a wet background, use the watercolour technique, and then the salt attracts the colour to your lovely sparkly effect. So that's like sprinkles. I'm going to use my For You as well, and again keeping those muted colour tones. I'm just going to add it actually in this bottom right corner, I think, because that just leaves me more freedom for where I'm going to put my layers as well. Okay, now I'm popping that to one side so we can do our stamping. Useful thing to remember is that we're using photopolymer stamp sets here, so a stamping pierce mat is a good idea because that just gives the cushioning to help you get those lovely crisp images. So I'm going to come in with my sand dollar stamp. She says I am going to come in with my sand dollar stamp. Or maybe not, because where did I put it? Okay. Oh, right next to me, a typical. Right, ink up. Just keep yourself a little bit of a margin. You don't have to come in the centre, but give yourself a bit of margin for that die cut around there. I'm going to use my Seaside spray. Perhaps not actually. I'm going to, let's mix it up a little bit with a bit of Flirty Flamingo. Add a deeper pink in there. And then we'll use the Blushing Bride now for those two little sort of tiny shells. Now I'm going to just do the one. I've already got some die cut. So one of the things I do, just you know, as many of you do, I keep die cuts. You know, when I've done, if I've got any leftovers where I've cut them apart, I keep a little plastic pouch with extra die cuts in, which I've got there, which is perfect for videos because it means I've actually got some already ready to go. So, you know, I might leave that one out. It just means that, you know, especially with a big die cut, you don't ever lose or, you know, waste anything. It all comes back. So we'll pop that to one side. Add our dies to this. So with these dies, I use a little bit of post-it note tape just to kind of keep it in place. A little bit of washi tape would do, as long as you sort of de-sticky it, or make sure it goes on the outside of your card. I'm going to use my mini cut and emboss machine, so I'm just going to trim this down. Again, add our little shell. So just line that up so you can see the image. And likewise with our starfish as well. So mini cut and emboss. If you're short on space, absolutely perfect. Or even if you're not, if you just want one for little bits of die cutting, this is absolutely perfect. It's the mini boss, they call it. Again, just as with the big one, the plates are all numbered, and it tells you on there what sandwich to use. So, you know, never force it anyway, but it's perfect for crafting on the go if you're, you know, when we're allowed to travel. So those really useful, and you can see that, and they die cut beautifully. Just pop out so easily. Blender pen, good old trusty blender pen. Now with the blender pen, I put the ink onto a spare block. For me, I find that works best. I don't like adding anything to my ink pad. So obviously, if you were to stick your blender pen onto your ink pad, then you're going to get, you're sort of contaminating your ink pad. And although these ones are old, I still want to be able to use them. And I'm just coming round and just adding a sort of a hint of a shadow in these. Perhaps gone a bit heavy on that one. Let's blend it out. So unlike the Stampin' Blends, you know, you can really use these blender pens whatever colour whatever colour you happen to have, to help that fit in. Bit of pink. And again, just round the outside edge. And just add a bit of, just adds a little bit more interest. In fact, let's just add, I'm just going to use the same Blushing Bride 2 with the Flirty Flamingo. Yes, just add. There we go. And a bit of dimension. Lots of ways to do this. I've used a ball tool, one of my favourite ways. You know, get your scissors, palm of your hand. That just gives us a little bit of dimension. It makes it, say, just takes away the flatness. You know, nature isn't, you know, generally doesn't sort of, and shells in particular aren't sort of particularly flat. Now, if you've got a ball tool, I find the embossing tip on the, take your pick, a little bit too small. You tend to get, it's good for doing lines, but you want something sort of curvier for this. So there we have our various bits and pieces. So let's get assembling. So first of all, grab some dimensionals for your panel. And just make sure it's well supported. You don't want any, never mind soggy bottoms on tarts. We don't want any saggy layers on cards. So as many as you want, you know, in the corners and in the middle, you know, is where you want to put that. I'm going to add that in probably just sort of slightly into one side, from one side, and just, you know, on covering over that boundary. I'm going to stick a dimensional on the inside of my sand dollar. And again, you don't want it coming off the card, but you don't want it just sort of being solid either. Mini dimensionals, perfect for adding those little elements to your cards. So grab some of those as well. Always useful to have on hand. And then pop that on the back of the middle of the starfish. So you'll see I didn't quite get my die cutting as good as I might have wanted, so I'm just going to cover up that slight, not an imperfection, opportunity for embellishment, as we always say. So adding those shells in, take the dimensional back off, you'll find it helps it. And again, just coming slightly off the side as well, adds to that texture. And you'll see it doesn't sort of, it's not quite there yet. So now all I have to do is find my opal rounds and add that. Look at that. Look at the difference that makes to that card. Just all of a sudden, we've got 3 there, and I'm just going to add my extra one onto that card to cover up. So there we have a couple of really pretty all occasion cards for you using our lovely sand and sea suite, blending brushes and a bit of a blender pen. Thanks for watching. Do come back and see me again soon, and if you'd like to purchase any of the products that you've seen today, you'll find the links in the description bar below this video, or pop along to my blog at Flutter by Heidi and you'll find images with links there as well. And if you want to decorate the inside of your card, then all you do is use this fabulous stamp that comes in the Sweet Sampler stamp set and add a little on the inside, and that would be perfect on the outside of your envelope as well, and just adds to the interest. Thank you for watching. Bye bye for now.